presentation with you?
Absolutely. The presentation is all yours. I'm already starting the recording, so there you go.
Okay. Please tell me if you're able to see that. Yes. Are you all able to see it? Yes, okay. Thank you. So I'm going to set the time. Is the recording on already? Teacher, your mic is off.
Yes, yes. Recording is ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so the topic I chose is the flipped classroom. I thought that this is a pretty interesting topic for us as trainee teachers, right? So let's go. So what is the flipped classroom? It is a learning model that approaches learning from an application perspective. So since a few years ago, when we had the pandemic and we all turned at home to take classes, educators have also turned their look into alternative ways of instruction and education. Since this century is transitioning into the age of technology, I think we are already in the age of technology and the personalized learning. So this kind of new instructional styles, like the flipped classroom and the flipped learning, are getting stronger, right, between educators. So the flipped classroom model approaches learning from this application perspective, and it consists of, instead of using the traditional approach of learning from the textbook and the lecture during the class, you can take students to use the class time their own way and under the parameters of the teacher provides. So we could say that we are moving the content related activities outside of the class and taking the activities like homework, project based, some assignments are like in a collaborative group, make this project together, create a project. They are taking those activities into the class. That is why it is like upside down, inverting the traditional way to do it. Now, I'm sorry, I went too far. Okay, this is it. How was born this? How was it born, right? So the origins of this approach comes from, a lot of 100 years ago. Universities came into existence before the invention of the printing press, right? So you had a teacher or an instructor. I'm sorry, I'm moving the presentation. You had this instructor talking, right? He had a long discourse and students were just listening to it, and they had to remember the most that they could, because paper was so rare they couldn't even have the chance to take notes. So they had to remember. That's how lecture started in universities, and that's how university started as well. So when the printing press came into a scene, you got this new invention of books, and you could reproduce information and contents of the lesson into these books. And now we got into the traditional method that we learned from university and the school, to have a textbook in the class and the teacher giving its lecture. But then one day, some teachers that are called Bergman and Aaron Sams in Colorado around the year of 2007, they were pioneers in this software tool that allowed them to narrate and record their lectures and their PowerPoint presentations with the lectures, and share it with the students that didn't get to be in the class. So they posted those lectures, those videos online with the presentations, and then students who missed the class could catch up. But then they realized that their video tutorials were not only used by the students that didn't get into the class, but also by the students that were into the class, but they wanted to review the material and study with the video tutorials. And they thought, oh, this is a great idea, and we should keep on using it and maybe increase it. Then around the same time, a financial analyst named Salman Khan began creating short videos, tutorials in mathematics for his nephew. And he posted them on YouTube. These video tutorials soon started to develop more followers than just his nephew, people that needed tutoring in math. And I think they are pretty close to the idea or the pioneer we have here in Colombia, that was Julio Profe, right? A lot of people started to follow his videos, and then this turned into a learning and teaching method, a teaching approach. And that is how, or that are the facts or the historical aspects that get into the flipped classroom. So we have 4 pillars of flip. It is flexible environment, learning culture, intentional content, and professional educators. These are the 4 pillars of it. And how can it work? How does it get to work? Think on how our students are used to acquire their knowledge. Today, they used to get information in their phones, computers, on YouTube, on social media. So they are surrounded by these technologies, and the teacher must know how to take advantage of them through appropriate techniques or didactics, what we call the teaching style, because there are many methodologies that can be mixed together and used alongside with this learning model, and puts the learning at the center. So it starts from the student-centered vision, because I've seen a lot of tutorials on how to flip your class, but they say the first step is to choose a video. No, you need to first look, what is the format that is most convenient, the more convenient for my students? And that is how it starts the learning method. So you put the learning at the center, and you use these techniques like the collaborative learning, the project-based learning, the task-based learning, and so on. Then we could talk about the advantages of this. The first one could be that students take ownership for learning. So a flipped classroom personalizes learning for students, because they are able to make their own decisions on how to learn the class material while giving the lesson purpose. I'm sorry, I don't know what's it moved. A minute. Okay, how to learn the class material, and they get to give a meaning into the real world. The lessons and contents are more accessible because they could be online and disposable at any time for the students. The role of the teacher regains relevance because the teacher now is able not to only give information to the students, but also to use the time class to be more close to them and to do these works or to tutor the homework that students did at home. Now they are taking it into the class, and the teacher can be more effective in that way. And finally, the relationships and interactions are enhanced because this not only promotes student-centered learning, but also the collaboration work. And finally, we have 3 steps to apply this learning approach. 3 advices. The first one is to take advantage of the ready-to-use content available. So there is not only videos that we can do, or we don't have to create our own videos all the time, though we can do it. But there are sites with great sources for media, ranges from documentaries, interviews, demonstrations, tutorials, pics, graphs, and all this stuff that you can use to create your flipped classroom. The next one is don't just show them, but take them to do something. Wrap the content presented at home in dynamic online discussions. You can create a collaborative forum and get them to answer a question about the content you have just dropped into the platform. And finally, use the flip model to create a student-centered classroom. So you can get students actively engaged in the learning process using new strategies like labs, experiments, fieldwork, creative writing, assignments, of collaborative research, projects, acting, dramatic readings. So it gets a lot of space in class to do all the stuff that you put your students to do out of class before. And that is why it is so effective, because you get into the practical environment to the class. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Thank you so much for listening. May I share with you some of the sources?
Thank you, Maria Fernanda, for your presentation. It was actually a very interesting presentation for us as teachers. We all should apply it in our teaching practices. So let's open the session to questions. Let's start with Melba's question, and then when your question is answered, do not hesitate to mention the person who continues. Go ahead, please.
Okay, Maria Fernanda. Your topic is very interesting, especially with us, for us, because we are studying in order to be excellent teachers. And how can we apply the flight classroom in order to improve the English learning process?
Okay, so I recently read an article that talk about the efficiency of the flipped learning classroom into the language learning and teaching. And they say they use this metadata analysis or analytics to do it, some surveys and stuff, to follow the progress of the student. And they used a lot, they noticed that teachers use a lot of collaborative activities in class, and then after getting the students to review the content before the class. So why is it so effective for language teaching or language learning? Because you use the time in class to practice and improve those skills, like speaking, writing, right? You can put them to write into a creative writing activity at class, and then review it, and then they will have the teacher in the place or in the meeting if you do it online, to answer the questions they have and the doubts they have. And that is why it is so effective for language teaching.
Thank you very much for your answer. It's important to have the complement at home and the environment where the children are growing up. It's true. Okay, thank you very much for your answer. I invite to friend David, continue with the questions.
Okay. Congratulations for your presentation. Okay. What do you think the approach is useful?
What do I think? Sorry, please repeat it.
Why do you consider the approach useful?
Why do I consider the approach is used to?
Useful.
Okay, I think I understood the question. Um, so I think it is used most, and you could see for the origins. It was discovered by the necessity. Not all the people has the same learning styles, the same dispositions, and the same resources to learn. You know, some people maybe have the motivation. Some students may have this motivation to learn. In the case of learning a new language, may they have the motivation, maybe they have the reasons and purposes or objectives to achieve and why they want to learn, but maybe they don't have time, or maybe they feel like they can do it alone. So the idea of the flipped learning is to provide, because it's student-centered, is use the technological resources to provide all those needs for the students, not only like giving them content and letting them get all the information and what can they do with that. It is to try to look for solutions to the learning problems of the student. If it's time, you can create content for them to review at the time they have available. If it's maybe they don't have um, people to get support from mates, you can create online spaces for collaboration. And if they need a tutor or they feel like they need an instructor figure to follow, then you can create spaces for direct communication and support by a teacher. And that's why.
Okay, thank you. So it means with this approach, you can adapt everything when you're gonna teach English.
Exactly.
Okay,
Using mainly technologies.
perfect. Thank you. The last one is Ronald. Have you
Yes.
asked? Okay, it's your turn.
Okay, Maria, do you have knowledge or a statistic about how many schools or institutes are using this way of teaching in Colombia?
No, I really don't have a statistic on it, but I've noticed that lastly, the university, UNA, is using a lot of this kind of strategies, and they are including it in the contents of the teacher development or teacher training courses for us. So they are including the topic and letting us know about the meanings and what implies these kind of learning approaches. That's what I know so far.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be important that our schools and institutes start using this. That would be very important.
Mhm. Thank you. So who's next?
Okay, let's go with Daniel. Are you there?
Okay, one moment. Um,
Jahira. Jahira is raising her hand.
yeah, okay. Are these teachings used to go out to work or the practice itself?
Sorry, please repeat that.
Okay. Uh, are these teachings used to go out or the practice itself? Not okay. Are these teachings used to go out to to practice itself?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I've known that some courses that apply not only, I'm not meaning to courses of the UNAD, but in a lot of universities and institutions are getting into creating projects of using these method or this approach, and they include practical and like practical spheres or tasks for students in these courses, and they get to make let me remember the word, um, like field work, field work to get students into the experience and applying the knowledge, applying the contents. So they use it they use it as a pillar of the course and the syllabus or contents of a course.
Thank you.
Okay, Yahaira, go ahead. If you cannot use your microphone, maybe you can use the chat. Are you able to see the chat?
All right. So I think that like this, we have finished the questions section, right? Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for your participation. I'm going to stop the recording here so that you can go to the chat